There's a certain kind of woman the world can't help but notice. She walks with intention, not arrogance. She speaks with purpose, not noise. She's not everywhere with everybody doing everything. She's selective, she's disciplined, she's focused. And some people fear her, not because she's loud, but because she's unmoved. A woman who chooses her own company over chaos, who can sit with her thoughts, who builds herself in silence. That woman is dangerous. Not dangerous in a harmful way, dangerous because she becomes unstoppable. Today, I want to break down 5 reasons why a woman who spends time alone is a force the world can't ignore. When a woman chooses to spend time alone, she steps into a space most people avoid. Because solitude is a mirror that doesn't lie. It reflects back the truth without filters, without the noise of opinions, without the pressure of society telling her who she should be. Most people only recognize themselves through the roles they play for others. Daughter, partner, mother, friend, employee. But when she is alone, she is forced to meet the raw version of herself. No titles, no mask, just her. In a world that constantly tells women who to be, how to look, how to act, what to desire, it takes courage to disconnect long enough to hear her own voice. Many run from that silence because the truth is uncomfortable. It's easier to stay busy, surround themselves with people, cling to relationships, and bury themselves in routines than to sit with the unresolved parts of their soul. But a woman who sits still and listens to her inner world learns herself on a level most never reach. Think about how many women you've seen go from friend group to friend group, relationship to relationship, trend to trend, trying to fit somewhere, trying to belong, trying to feel whole. She may look social, active, even fun, but deep down she might be searching for something she hasn't yet given herself, a relationship with her own identity. The truth is, if a woman doesn't know who she is alone, she'll accept anybody's version of her. She'll bend, shrink, or overgive just to feel seen. And that's why solitude is powerful. It forces alignment with authenticity. When she chooses solitude, she starts to notice what actually fuels her and what drains her. She realizes her triggers, not to judge herself, but to understand and heal them. She learns her values, the things she stands on even when no one is watching. She discovers her gifts, the talents that come naturally, the passions that make her eyes light up, the dreams that feel too big to say out loud. She becomes aware of her non-negotiables, what she will no longer tolerate, accept, or settle for. That clarity is a form of self-respect that can only be built from within. It's not always pretty in the beginning. Solitude can feel like withdrawal because for years she's been fed by external noise. The silence exposes where she abandoned herself, where she allowed others to define her, where she put her worth in someone else's hands. But over time, that silence becomes sacred. She finds peace in her thoughts instead of fear. She stops running from her reflection and starts loving the woman staring back. There's a study from the University of Virginia that says most people would rather shock themselves than sit alone with their thoughts for just 15 minutes. Think about how wild that is. Facing their inner world is so uncomfortable that pain feels easier than silence. So imagine the level of strength it takes for a woman not only to face herself, but to embrace herself, grow with herself, and evolve because of her. If she masters what the majority avoid, she automatically becomes rare. She becomes a woman with depth, intention, and self-awareness, qualities that separate her from the average. And let me make something clear. Knowing yourself isn't about perfection, it's about truth. When a woman knows herself, she doesn't move to impress, she doesn't chase approval, and she doesn't wait for anyone to validate her worth. She stops seeking permission to exist fully. She operates from a place of inner certainty. That's why self-awareness becomes her superpower, because it guides how she loves, how she lives, how she chooses, and how she walks away when something no longer serves her. When she learns herself, she stops confusing loneliness with peace. She understands that solitude isn't a punishment, it's preparation. It's where she learns to pour into herself so that whatever love, energy, or generosity she gives is not coming from emptiness, it's coming from overflow. She becomes emotionally independent. She no longer needs someone to tell her she's enough because she already knows she is. Everything she attracts after that is a reflection of how she sees herself. Getting to know herself also changes the way she dreams. She no longer dreams based on limitations or fears. She dreams based on alignment with her purpose. She starts building a life that feels like hers, not one designed to keep others comfortable. She understands her strengths, but she also becomes honest about her weaknesses, not to dim herself, but to grow. She invests in her mind, her health, her peace, her future. She becomes intentional with her time, her words, her relationships. She no longer settles for almost, maybe, or just enough. She understands that her journey is unique, and she stops comparing her timeline to anyone else's. And here's the most powerful part. When a woman knows herself, she becomes harder to influence, harder to manipulate, and harder to break. People can no longer guilt trip her, distract her, or control her with insecurity. She sees through intentions, not just actions. She recognizes energies, not just words. She trusts her intuition because she has spent enough time with herself to know how her spirit speaks. That level of self-trust is freedom. A woman who learns herself becomes a threat to anything built on insecurity, confusion, or dependency. She inspires without trying. She leads without speaking. She elevates the room simply by being rooted in who she is. Her presence gains weight because it's not created for the world, it's created from within. So when a woman takes the time to sit alone, reflect, heal, question, rebuild, and reintroduce herself to herself, understand that she's not isolating, she's evolving. She's not withdrawing from the world. She's preparing to return with clarity, purpose, and power. And once she does, nothing can convince her to go back to who she was before she met the woman she is becoming. When a woman chooses solitude and starts building inner peace, she steps into a level of strength that the world can't take from her. Most people don't realize how rare that is, because true peace is not something you stumble into. It's something you work for, something you earn, something you build within. It's not bought, borrowed, or handed down. It's shaped through self-awareness, healing, and emotional maturity. A woman who learns how to regulate her emotions, who can sit with her feelings without letting them drown her, becomes unshakable. She learns to calm her own storm, and once she does, nothing outside of her has the power to control her. Peace isn't found in noise, company, or distractions. It's found in the moments where she sits with herself long enough to understand her thoughts, her patterns, her reactions, and her pain. Solitude becomes her training ground. It teaches her that emotions are not the enemy, they're signals. Instead of exploding, shutting down, or running from them, she learns to observe them, process them, learn from them, and release them. That's emotional regulation, and it's one of the strongest forms of self-mastery a woman can develop. Because the truth is, a lot of people don't truly want peace. They want comfort. They want temporary relief, not real inner work. They numb with distractions, scrolling for hours, jumping into relationships to avoid feeling lonely, drowning themselves in work or social events, chasing validation to feel wanted. But peace isn't about staying busy. It's about staying balanced. When a woman learns to sit with herself, she no longer fears silence, because silence stops feeling empty. Silence becomes clarity, rest, alignment. I once spoke with a woman who said she used to dread being alone, not because she didn't like herself, but because silence made her face emotions she had buried for years. She kept herself surrounded by noise, friends, events, social media, group chats, anything to avoid being still. But one day life forced her into solitude. Friends distanced, a relationship ended, job stress hit, and for the first time, she had no choice but to confront her inner world. At first, it felt like everything was falling apart. She cried more in those first few weeks alone than she had in years. But instead of running, she stayed, she journaled, she prayed, she meditated. She confronted her trauma, her insecurities, her guilt, her regret. She healed old wounds she didn't even know were bleeding. And slowly, silence stopped feeling like punishment. It became her sanctuary. Years later, she told me, "Peace didn't come when life got easier. Peace came when I learned to manage myself." That's what makes peace such a powerful asset. Once a woman learns to create it internally, nothing external can take it away. She no longer seeks entertainment to escape her mind, because her mind is no longer a war zone. She doesn't chase attention to feel valued, because she values herself. She doesn't need a partner to feel complete, because she's whole. She becomes the source of her own joy, her own comfort, her own fulfillment. And that independence, emotional independence, is one of the most underrated flexes a woman can achieve. A woman with inner peace becomes incredibly hard to manipulate. People can't control her with drama because she won't engage. They can't bait her with jealousy, gossip, or chaos because she's not moved by things beneath her growth. They can't guilt trip her into staying in situations that drain her because she protects her peace like it's sacred. She becomes selective with who she allows into her space because she understands that peace took years to build and can be lost in moments if she lets the wrong energy in. She stops entertaining inconsistency, disrespect, or emotional immaturity because once she experiences peace, chaos becomes too expensive. This doesn't mean she doesn't face storms. Life still tests her, but the difference is she doesn't collapse the way she used to. She doesn't fall apart over the same things that once broke her. She might bend, but she doesn't break. She has learned to breathe through her emotions, not drown in them. She has learned to respond, not react. And when you can't be shaken, you can't be controlled. Peace changes her standards. For example, she stops arguing to be understood. She understands that peace isn't proving a point. It's knowing her truth and not needing validation to confirm it. She walks away more, not because she's weak, but because she's wise. She realizes the power of not attending every fight she's invited to. She knows the value of protecting her inner world. She learns to rise above pettiness and chooses her battles with intention. She picks peace over pride, clarity over chaos, growth over ego. Peace strengthens her spiritually too. When she's alone and quiet, she hears divine guidance more clearly. Her intuition becomes sharper. She starts noticing signs, patterns, lessons. She connects with something bigger than herself. Whether it's faith, meditation, or reflection, she develops a spiritual grounding that gives her stability when the world tries to shake her foundation. She no longer feels like she's moving through life alone. She feels supported, aligned, guided. People around her will notice the change too. They'll feel her calm. They'll sense her stability. They'll see how she handles conflict, stress, and setbacks with grace. At first, some won't understand it. They might even try to trigger her just to see if the old version of her still exists. But when she doesn't react the way she used to, when she remains poised, thoughtful, and grounded, they realize she's grown beyond their level of access. That's when people start respecting her, even in silence. Inner peace also affects how she loves. Love becomes intentional, not desperate. She doesn't attach out of fear or loneliness. She loves from fullness, not emptiness. Connections become healthier because they're not built on dependency or expectation. They're built on authenticity and choice. She knows that anyone who comes into her life must match the peace she built, not disturb it. And if someone threatens her mental or emotional well-being, she won't hesitate to step back. Her peace becomes her boundary. A woman like this becomes a blessing to everyone she touches, not because she fixes people, but because her calm inspires others to calm themselves. Her presence teaches people that peace is possible. She becomes a living example that healing is worth it, solitude is needed, and self-mastery is real. She glows differently, not because life is perfect, but because she has found harmony within herself. When a woman builds inner peace, she becomes her own safe place. And when she becomes her own safe place, the world can no longer disturb her. She becomes a force, unbothered, unbreakable, and unwavered. A woman like that is powerful. A woman like that is free. When a woman spends enough time alone to truly enjoy her own company, something powerful happens in her mindset. She stops seeing solitude as a gap to fill and starts seeing it as a standard to protect. Her alone time becomes a luxury, a form of self-care, a reset, a place where her soul breathes. And because she values that space, she becomes far more selective about who she allows into it. The more she learns to love her own energy, the less she's willing to tolerate anyone who disturbs it. Time alone doesn't just raise her standards in love, it raises them in every area of her life. Friendships, business, environment, and even the way she treats herself. When a woman reaches that point, mediocre energy no longer impresses her. She stops entertaining confusion, inconsistency, or disrespect disguised as love. She no longer gets excited by attention. She values intention. She doesn't care how many people want her. She cares about the quality of who gets access to her. She learns to measure people by their actions, not their words. If someone wants her time, they must come with clarity, respect, and value, because she worked too hard to create peace within herself to hand it over to someone who hasn't done the same. She realizes that not everyone deserves a seat at her table. Some people come with empty hands but expect a full plate. Some come with ego, not effort. Some come with attachment, not love. And after spending real quality time alone, she learns she'd rather eat alone in peace than feast with people who drain her spirit. She no longer fears letting go. She fears holding on to the wrong people and losing herself again in the process. Before she discovered the power of solitude, she may have settled. She may have tolerated behaviors that didn't respect her worth, all because she didn't deeply know it herself. She may have kept people around out of habit, loneliness, history, or potential. But once she grows, once she heals, once she elevates, she realizes potential isn't enough. She needs effort, consistency, alignment, and reciprocity. She doesn't chase energy anymore, she matches it. And if what she receives doesn't level up to what she gives, she steps back, not with anger, but with self-respect. She stops begging for love because she now understands that love should never require begging. Love chosen is more powerful than love chased. When someone chooses her with clarity, consistency, and character, that's love that aligns with her soul. And because she has learned how to love herself, she becomes patient with love. She's no longer in a rush to attach to the first person who offers attention. She knows attention is cheap. She wants effort. She wants growth. She wants alignment. She wants peace. She wants a partner who complements her, not completes her. Her standards rise in friendships too. She stops keeping friends who compete with her, gossip about her, or celebrate her failures louder than her wins. She doesn't want friends who only show up for fun but disappear during struggle. She stops being the strong friend who carries everyone else emotionally while suffering in silence. She wants friendships built on honesty, growth, accountability, and support. If someone can't clap for her when she wins, they don't get to sit with her while she builds. She outgrows superficial bonds and starts gravitating toward people who challenge her, uplift her, and help her evolve. Her standards rise in business and her goals as well. She stops settling for the bare minimum from herself. She becomes intentional about her work, her money, and her purpose. She no longer thinks small. She no longer accepts just enough to survive. She wants to thrive. She invests in herself, her skills, her knowledge, her wellness. She sets goals that once scared her because now she believes she's worthy of them. And that belief changes how she moves. She becomes focused, disciplined, and driven. She stops wasting time on drama because drama doesn't pay her, evolve her, or align with her vision. She protects her time because she knows time is the most valuable currency she has. Boundaries become a natural extension of her evolution. She stops saying yes out of guilt and starts saying no out of self-respect. She's not rude, she's clear. She's not cold, she's cautious. She doesn't explain herself endlessly. She understands that anyone who requires long explanations to respect her boundaries isn't meant for her life. She no longer feels guilty for choosing herself. She understands that choosing herself isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's survival, it's growth. People around her will notice the shift. Some will get uncomfortable because the version of her they benefited from no longer exists. Some will accuse her of changing, not realizing that she was always meant to evolve. They just expected her to stay at a level that made them comfortable. But the right people, those aligned with her growth, will applaud the transformation. They'll support the version of her that chooses peace over approval, alignment over attachment, quality over quantity, and growth over comfort. Think about the women who took a season to be single and focused on themselves. Not because they gave up on love, but because they realized they deserved better than what they had been accepting. They healed their hearts, they built their businesses, they strengthened their mindset, they sharpened their standards. Then they came back to life with a glow that couldn't be ignored. They started attracting healthier love, better friendships, smarter opportunities, and more aligned connections. People said they got lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. That was alignment. That was the direct outcome of a woman who chose herself first and raised her standards accordingly. A woman who becomes selective understands that her energy is currency. She doesn't spend it where there's no return. She knows her value. She knows what she brings. She knows what she stands for. And because of that, she stops settling for half love, half effort, half truth, or half anything. She refuses to shrink to fit into spaces that don't appreciate her fullness. She doesn't lower her standards to keep people. Someone cannot rise to meet her. She trusts the universe to replace them with someone who will. This level of evolution doesn't make her hard to love. It makes her impossible to play with. It makes her a woman who chooses quality over chaos, alignment over attachment, and peace over popularity. Once a woman learns the value of her solitude, she becomes far more careful about who she lets interrupt it. She knows her life is a garden and she protects it from anything that cannot grow with her. And that standard is exactly what elevates her entire existence. When a woman starts spending intentional time alone, her mind begins to shift in powerful ways. She stops living on autopilot and becomes aware of her potential. Solitude gives her the mental space to ask questions that most people avoid. Who am I? What do I want? What gift did I come into this world with? What kind of life do I want to build? At first, those questions feel heavy because they force honesty. But the moment she stops running from them and starts exploring them, her world begins to elevate. She no longer moves just to keep up. She moves with vision. That's the point where she stops merely consuming life and starts creating her own. When a woman embraces solitude, she taps into a level of creativity that daily noise never allowed her to access. Solitude breeds innovation because it removes distractions and allows her mind to expand. The greatest inventions, the most impactful ideas, and the biggest personal transformations rarely happen in a crowd. They happen when someone separates from the world long enough to hear themselves think. They happen in those quiet late night hours when she's journaling dreams no one knows about yet. They happen on long walks and peaceful mornings, or while sitting alone in coffee shops, planning a future that doesn't exist yet, but will. With time alone, she starts to see what she's capable of. She's not just scrolling through social media wishing she was further in life. She's mapping out a plan to get there. She's not comparing herself to people online. She's studying, learning, and leveling up. Where she used to look outside for inspiration, she now looks inward. She realizes that she doesn't need to copy anyone when she can create a lane of her own. She stops consuming so much content that distracts or discourages her and replaces it with material that teaches and enriches her. Instead of gossiping, she's reading books that expand her mindset. Instead of watching others chase their dreams, she's taking steps toward her own. Instead of competing with people, she's improving herself. Her mindset goes from I wish to I will. Her alone time becomes an investment into her growth. She uses it to learn new skills that open new doors. She picks up books on mindset, finance, emotional intelligence, spirituality, leadership, creativity. She listens to podcasts that feed her soul. She watches videos that teach her something useful, not just something entertaining. She starts taking courses, attending workshops, and seeking knowledge that stretches her thinking. She begins choosing how she feeds her mind with the same care she uses to feed her body. She becomes intentional about what she allows to influence her thoughts because she understands that her thoughts shape her future. During solitude, she also strengthens her mindset. She begins letting go of limiting beliefs that once held her hostage. Beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I don't know where to start, or people like me don't succeed. She replaces doubt with possibility. She replaces fear with preparation. She starts believing she deserves more, and that belief becomes a foundation for everything she builds. She goes from seeing problems as obstacles to viewing them as opportunities for growth. She becomes resilient, mentally tough, and confident in her ability to create the life she desires. She stops waiting for perfect timing because she understands that she is the timing. Her solitude becomes the place where she plans her future with intention. She sets goals, not just survival goals, but elevation goals. She stops thinking small and begins thinking legacy. She starts visualizing the woman she wants to become 5 years from now, and then she starts making decisions that align with that version of herself. She writes down her vision. She breaks it into steps. She removes habits that kept her stuck and replaces them with habits that will take her further. She no longer lives day to day. She's building a blueprint that will turn into a reality, brick by brick. While others waste time, she is planting seeds. And seeds take time to grow, so most people won't see the work she's doing right away. But that's the beauty of it. She's not doing it for attention. She's doing it for alignment. She's doing it so she never has to rely on luck or chance. She's preparing for the opportunities she knows she is destined for. And because she prepares, she succeeds. There's a study from the Harvard Business Review that revealed something powerful. Solitude increases productivity, creativity, and confidence. That means a woman who spends intentional time alone isn't falling behind. She's positioning herself to leap forward. She's not lonely, she's evolving. She's not isolating, she's innovating. She's becoming a builder of her mind, her brand, her peace, and her legacy. She understands that she can't build something meaningful if she's always surrounded by noise, opinions, and distractions. Think about some of the greatest transformations you've ever seen in women. Many of them happened in their quiet season, the chapter where they disappeared for a while. They weren't posting every move. They weren't broadcasting their struggles. They weren't begging for validation. They were working on themselves. They were reinventing their identity, healing their trauma, studying their craft, learning discipline, becoming who they needed to be. And when they came back, people called it a glow up. But they didn't see the nights she cried, prayed, planned, and kept going when nobody was clapping. They didn't see the sacrifices required to become the woman she is today. When a woman elevates her mind, her environment begins to shift. She becomes protective of what she consumes mentally. Low vibration conversations no longer interest her. Drama bores her. Shallow relationships drain her. She seeks depth, deep conversations, deep purpose, deep peace. She desires people who inspire her, teach her, challenge her, and remind her of who she is becoming. She wants circles where growth is normal, where dreams are respected, where ambition is shared. She wants to be in rooms where her ideas are nurtured, not judged. And if she can't find that room, she creates her own. This kind of elevation doesn't just improve her life, it impacts everyone connected to her. She becomes a source of inspiration without trying. People look at her and feel something. They see her discipline, her growth, her confidence, and it challenges them to elevate too. She becomes proof that you don't need a crowd to become great. You need focus, you need belief, you need solitude. She becomes a leader not because she sets out to lead, but because she led herself first. A woman who embraces solitude becomes a creator. She creates ideas, opportunities, solutions, and impact. She becomes a producer of life, not just a consumer of what life gives her. She stops scrolling for motivation because she is the motivation. She stops comparing because she understands no one can compete with a woman on her own path. She stops shrinking because she realizes the world needs what she has to offer. When her mind elevates, her life elevates. And once a woman unlocks that level of mental power, nothing can put her back into a version of herself that no longer fits. She steps into purpose, and purpose becomes her direction. She becomes unstoppable. When a woman spends enough time alone to truly meet herself, love begins to look different to her. It stops being something she chases to feel complete and becomes something she chooses to experience from a place of wholeness. She no longer sees a relationship as the missing piece to her puzzle because she has taken the time to build herself, understand herself, and pour into herself until she's already full. When she reaches that level of fullness, love becomes a complement, not a cure. It enhances her life, but it doesn't define her life. A woman who has done the inner work isn't looking for someone to heal her wounds or fix her pain. She handled that in the quiet nights when nobody knew what she was battling. She processed her emotions, learned her patterns, healed her inner child, forgave herself for past choices, released people she once thought she couldn't live without, and rebuilt her self-worth from the ground up. She learned to love herself deeply, without conditions, without validation, without needing someone else to tell her she mattered. By the time she opens her heart again, she's not offering broken pieces, hoping someone will put them together. She's offering a heart that's already whole, steady, and overflowing. That's why her love hits different. When she loves from overflow, she gives without losing herself. She cares deeply, but she doesn't abandon her boundaries. She supports her partner, but she doesn't sacrifice her purpose to keep them comfortable. She shows up fully, but she doesn't shrink or silence parts of herself to make love work. Her love is pure because it's not rooted in fear, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of being abandoned. Instead, her love is rooted in choice, honesty, intention, and emotional maturity. She loves freely, not desperately. She can be soft without being weak because she knows softness is a strength when it's backed by self-respect. A partner doesn't become her identity because she already knows who she is. She spent the time alone to discover her passions, her goals, her values, and her dreams. She's connected to her purpose. She's grounded in her individuality. She's not looking for someone to give her a name, a title, or a meaning. She already built that for herself. A relationship is not her escape from life. It's an addition to an already fulfilling life. She no longer needs love to distract her from loneliness because her solitude is peaceful now. She enjoys her own company, so if she invites someone into her life, it's because they deserve a place there, not because she fears being alone. This is what makes her powerful in love. She knows she can stand alone, so she chooses love, not clings to it. And that choice makes her dangerous in a world where many relationships are held together by fear, dependency, or emotional attachment. She doesn't settle for almost love, half love, or love that breaks her spirit because she knows what it took to rebuild herself. If love requires her to abandon herself, it's too expensive. If loving someone means losing her identity, that love is not meant for her. She would rather walk away with her self-respect than stay with someone who can't love her in a healthy, reciprocal, and evolving way. A whole woman is not afraid of being alone again. She knows she can survive heartbreak because she's healed before, and she trusts herself to heal again if needed. That alone gives her a level of strength that can intimidate people who rely on control or emotional dependence to keep someone close. She does